Hey guys, Valerie Hunt, RunRx. Happy Ask Me Anything Wednesday. So I have two great questions that I got this week, and I wanted to go over the questions, of course. So just remember, I come on live every Wednesday to answer your questions about running. And since my main goal is to have people run pain-free, I usually get pain-related questions. So the first question I got was really great. So I used to do all of my coaching in person, which is, I think, everybody, right? So I just real quick background on me. I've been a coach for 31 years of my life, over half. And I've been a running specific coach for 22. And so it's interesting because people assume, right, when you get a running coach, it's to train you to run a marathon or to write your training plan or, that kind of thing. That's been the traditional coaching of running for years and years. I don't do, well, let me take it back. What I do, my specialty is technique, is teaching you the actual movement of running to make sure you're moving well while you run. So then it's like, well, how is that different from PT or physical therapist or chiropractor, something like that? Well, the difference is when you work with a physical therapist or chiropractor, there might be a structural problem, right? So if I go to my chiropractor, it's because, like my back went out. Something happened and I'm in pain and I can't move and my back's out. So the chiropractor is going to adjust you or put you in a place you can get out of the pain and keep moving, right? He's not teaching you how to move, she or she. They're putting you in a place so you can move. So that's kind of what the chiropractor does and the PTs. And the PTs, and both of them, will give you these exercises, right? So like say you go to the PT and you're like, woo, my hip hurts when I run. PT says, okay, let me look at the hip. All right, I need you to, let's say they say, you need to do these exercises and I'll give you a band. So then you're doing doing my exercises for my hip. Again, it's not teaching me movement, it's teaching me how to move better. How's that? So then when you go to your PT, you go to your chiro, they put you back. I always say, put you back in place so you can then move. So then the difference is, what does Valerie do? Well, Valerie watches you run. And when I watch you run, I can see, here's the things that you need to work on in your running, separate from your PT chiro work, all right? So that doesn't mean I want you to stop doing your side bands, because I know people love doing these. They're great. Are they helping me to learn how to run? No. Are they helping me so my hips are more stable during my run? Yes. See? So that's what you have to keep in mind. So like if you were, say you never swum before. I've never been swimming. So somebody would say, take a swim lesson. Well, when I would go to take the swim lesson, I would expect the person to show me what? How to swim, right? And later, after I had the swim lesson, they might say, well, you know what? To be a better swimmer would really help if you had more range of motion in your shoulders. So maybe start doing some range of motion exercises in your shoulder, see? Or maybe your shoulder's in a lot of pain, and when I watch you swim, I can see, oh, you're swimming incorrectly, right? So to understand the difference. So I'm like the running lesson and to learn the movement of running. And the best part, and by the way, if you didn't already know, I teach what's called pose method of running. And pose method of running is now the official running of the U.S. military, yay. And we're also the only running method that's credited for physical therapists, which is fabulous because both of those things have taken years and years and years of work. It's Dr. Romanoff's work, but because the recognition is there, that instead of just showing people how to have a stronger hip, we also have to show them how to have better movement. And once you start to move better, well, then your body has a chance to recover. Because every time I move correctly, I'm just doing beneficial things, right? And I tend to try to, people still say to me, everyone knows how to run. Like, just put your shoes on and go running. Sort of. Everyone knows how to sing, too. Doesn't mean they're good at it. I'm not, I can tell you that. So, and even singers do singing lessons and singing practice. So do runners. Guys, the people that we looked at, like the Olympics just happened, you don't think they're doing drills? You don't think they're doing skill practice? You know, I mean, it's like, put yourself in the place of thinking, I can get better. I can get better by getting better at my movement. And then my running gets better. Then you can run longer. Then you can run faster. Then you can talk about the fun stuff of running, like what shoes should I wear? What outfit should I put on? But before that, what is running? And I have a 12-week online membership. And the reason it's 12 weeks is because it takes just the first few weeks for people to start shifting their movement patterns. First, I have to think about my movement differently, and then I have to put this weird new movement in. And during that time, so think about, this is a good thing. If I go to PT, right, and that they say, okay, here's a few exercises, go do them at home. They don't know if you're doing them or not, right? And then the next time you go back, they're like, you do your exercises, and you're like, kind of. So that's why they usually make you sit there and do the exercises, right? When you go to Chiro or PT, they're like, go out in the PT area or whatever they call it and do your exercises while someone's watching you and you're accountable. Because we know by the time you get home, you don't even remember what they said. So I found the same thing when I used to do all of my training in person. I would show you, you know, and then you'd literally go on your next run and you'd either call me or email me or however the discussion went and say, it's not feeling like I thought. I'm having these questions. Well, of course you are. You just learned, it's brand new. So I turned it into a 12-week membership so I could watch you. You have to send me a video. And it's amazing because as soon as we start to look at you and your movement and you realize like you're missing out on your own potential, not because you're limited. In case you haven't watched it, the Kipchoge No Human is Limited documentary, it's amazing. He's amazing, the team is amazing, and the whole thing he talks about in there is if you believe you can, it's the first step, right? First he had to think I can break 2 hours. Until he believed it, it wasn't gonna happen, and it didn't happen the first time, right? And he said that, I wasn't fully committed to my belief that I could do it. So I find the same thing in just the recreational runner, age group runner. We're like, I am signing up for this marathon. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? But I signed up for it, I'm gonna get the t-shirt, I'm gonna go through the experience. So then we start doing these runs. And my training plan says, run 3 miles, then 3 miles, then 5 miles, and I'm gonna add 10%. The argument is so still about the distance and the mileage, and still no one's talking about the running itself. So when I work with people, I absolutely want you to run all the miles you want. I want you to run every mile and smile through it. You know what I mean? And he talks about that too in the documentary. First, you have to run 1 mile. And when I can run 1 mile, I can run 2, I can run 3, right? Because it goes into that same thing. In fact, someone just commented right before I came on, it was so great. They said, I went for a run with a friend and they said their friend is a little bit more advanced. They do longer running. So they said, they said I had to run 5 miles, and I've not run 5 miles. And he said, but the whole run, I was thinking about what you said. I was holding my pose, I was falling, I was pulling. He said I was able to run the entire run, no pain, and then afterwards I did some self-care. I was like, that makes my heart sing. You realize? Because I just said that this morning to someone. We're so focused on the distance. I gotta run 3 miles today. I gotta run 5 miles today. I gotta run however many miles I've gotta run. But we never talk about how I ran them, how I felt, right? We might say I had a good run, I had a bad run, but what does that really mean? Because if I got my distance, I feel success. And that's really what we want as runners, is that success. I wanna hit my mileage, but I wanna feel good. Okay, let's see. Hey, my right shoulder. So someone just said their shoulder's really hurting. Well, for shoulder pain, I hope you're doing some kind of rolling, right, or shoulder opening. For shoulder pain, it's usually, unfortunately, like you've got a tightness somewhere back here. And if you can't move the shoulder, then don't start moving it. But I would start here, right? Start with, what's the shoulder? The shoulder is a ball and socket joint. So if there's limitation in the movement of the shoulder, I would go what's called down the river. There's something back here in the trap or the lat that's inhibiting that. So start here, like with just a natural shoulder opening this way. And then can I go this way, right? Then could I take it out and go a little further, right? And then maybe start moving it around a full range. But if you find limitation in the movement, I would say get a little ball or a roller and first try to roll the area until I could move it. But don't force it. Don't force movement. Allow movement. And guys, that's a very important topic too. Allowing movement. What does that even mean? When most of us first come into running, all right, let me just go back because you're gonna take me off track. So his question was specific to his shoulder, and again, that's a challenging question, but just do what I said. Start with a small movement, make it bigger, use a roller, roll your, start doing movement in the natural way that the shoulder itself moves. You see? First, just let the shoulder move, right? Because the lifting part isn't actually shoulder, it's these guys. So again, the self-care is so important. So RunRx is skill, strength, and self-care, all three. So what that means is when you come into RunRx, say you're going through a PT program, say you have an injury, say you're limited in your movement. Now, if you were inside my membership and you asked me that question, just so you know, I would actually send you a full demo response, right? Because I'm your coach. When you're in my membership, I'm your private coach. You can ask me anything and I will answer you directly. And you will send me videos so I can see your movement and then respond to you directly that way. Isn't that cool? But when you ask me that question, so Wayne, I really hope that helps and you can let me know. But don't force it, just let it happen. So this is important because say he does come into the membership and he's like, okay, I'm coming in with a hurt shoulder. Most people are coming in, and then I would say, well, at least you can run. But most people are coming in with knees, shins, plantar fasciitis, heel bursitis. I've had compartment syndrome, you name it. But it's usually IT band. It's usually a running related injury. Although to be fair, a lot of people when they run have tension in their upper neck and shoulder, and we definitely work on that too. However, when you come in, I will acknowledge all those things, meaning thank you for always telling me where your pain is or what's happening, and then we correct through movement. Isn't that great? That means, like just now what I said to him, I didn't say, oh, well, don't move, just sit there still. No, let's start moving where we can. So like the beginning of RunRx is so much static, stationary, in-place training. So let's say you come in the membership and you have a knee injury. Well, 99% of the work in the beginning, you can actually hold on to something. You could offset your weight, maybe put your foot, unweight yourself. There's just different ways we do things, but you can still work on the movement of running. That's the best thing is that running itself is free falling. So the act of free falling, by the way, all of us can fall. You ever tripped? You've fallen. But it's a relationship with gravity, just the falling itself. And I had never heard that in my life. I've been coaching, like I said, for over 10 years before I got into coaching running. So when I first started as a trainer, I was a personal trainer, group fitness instructor. It was all body parts. Back in the 80s and 90s, we did so much body part training, it was so wrong. And it wasn't until I learned how to move the body as a full unit that I myself changed my whole mindset of training and how I approach all of my movements. So one of the things that I suggest when people first come into the RunRx program, and I'm going to suggest it to you, is spend $15 and get yourself a band. Right? They make these treadmills, guys. They're like $10,000 to $15,000. They're like anti-gravity treadmills. For $15, you can do the same thing on yourself. And you can offset your weight. And just learning right here in place with your weight offsetted is how you can get through an injury. I mean, it's incredible. There's so many things we can do to work around your injury. So yes, you can still start the program if you're injured, because I don't want you to run in the beginning anyway, so it's a great way to get into your recovery. And what I find too is that people that do PT, and this isn't anything against the PTs or chiros out there, because they have their job, and their job is to help you, like I said, get you to where you can move. And then they should send you back to your running coach or your strength coach. Like, don't let your PT also be your strength coach and your running coach, because that means they're trying to be way too specific in too many places. But to keep in mind that if I'm working on my movement, then when you do go to your PT, you could say, okay, I need to be able to, balance on one leg. Give me some exercises for that, right? Whereas when Valerie's watching you, she's going to have you balance on one leg, because that's what running is. We're on one leg, we're in balance. So, I mean, it's the simplicity of starting with the understanding of that. How many runners actually stand in place in their running pose and practice standing in balance? Unless I know them, I don't know anyone that does that. I've never been to a running group where they're like, hey guys, all right, we're gonna do some hill repeats this morning. We're gonna do about 8 of them, so let's do a little bit of a warm up. All right guys, let's all stand here in our pose. I've never seen it, just so you know. And I'm not dogging it, I'm just letting you know that if it's not in my environment, or it's not being talked about in my world, then I don't know about it, right? It's just I don't know. So then it's like when you go to the PT and they're like, oh, well, you have a hip imbalance. Then everyone, because people say it to me all the time, I have a hip imbalance, or one leg is shorter than the other. Okay, you can still stand in balance, because when you're running, this is it. This is running. Running is being in the running pose, falling forward, and pulling your foot to recover that same pose. So it's the same cycle over and over and over again, right? Running is repetitive. So if I'm running, by always allowing gravity to take me forward, and I simply pull my foot, all of a sudden I've reduced effort in my run by over half. I'm now using muscle elasticity. I've reduced impact by half. I've reduced fatigue by half. I mean, it's amazing. It's like we have so much work in our run that we don't need. There's people out there that are stressing their neck and shoulders. So if my neck and shoulders are hurting, I'm going to look to see, are you over swinging your arms? Are you holding yourself like this? You see what I mean? And then I help you with how do I relax my shoulders when I run, right? It's important. It all goes together. And these are conversations that need to happen over time. Because in the first week, for example, I'm just learning how to stand in pose. So my questions might be more about pose. Most runners that I work with, almost all of them, are running using their hips, their quads. They're not using their hamstring. This is your running muscle, is the hamstring. So then the other question I usually get is, ouch, Valerie, I'm trying to use your running technique. I'm doing the pose and my hamstrings are really sore. So then you send me a video and it looks like this. And I'm like, woo, okay. So are my hamstrings sore. Just watching. Because again, it's that transition from I'm learning a new movement. How do I put it together? So we go literally step by step by step, week by week by week, and by the end, you're running. In the beginning, it's a lot of thinking, it's a lot of drilling, it's like the little exercises your PT gives you, if you will, where you're like, I know they said to do these, so I guess I'll just do them, right? Whereas what I'm giving you is specific only to running. So we do everything for you is to make you a better runner. And that's the fun of what I'm doing. And then there's a great community inside of RunRx, and everyone's going through the same thing, so they're supporting each other. But only Valerie gives you the video feedback. Someone reached out yesterday and they said, well, I'm thinking about joining the membership, but I want to make sure I get the video analysis from you. Yes, video analysis is for me. I do have coaches that are training under me, but right now it's still just Valerie. And it's amazing how, let's say that I'm just starting and I'm coming back from ankle surgery, knee surgery, some kind of really limiting thing. I literally cannot run, Valerie. That's okay. If you can stand here and do this, we can get started. If I can get you to hold on to something and offset your weight, we can get started. We can get started. If you have to sit down, we can get started. Because the first thing is changing your mindset. And then we're going to develop skill, strength, and we have self-care. So if right now I can't do a lot of running, we're going to work on the mindset, we're going to work on the strength, and we're going to work on the self-care. And then as you're able to, we keep adding on to your skill. See, it's really cool with that triangle. So just keep in mind, if you're feeling like I don't want to do it because I'm limited in my movement, no, you're not. You're not limited. And we'll help you move better. The other question I got, which is a great question also, is I'm not sure, let's see, how do they say it? How high, it's always about the height of the pole. And this is a great question. So when I'm running, or when you see other people running, right? If you watch other people running, sometimes you're like, wow, look at that. Like their foot's so high up from the ground. I wonder if mine's that high. And then you're running and you're like, how are they doing that? That's just amazing. And we have to go back to, one is, stop looking at other people running. No, I'm just kidding. If we try to just mimic what we see, we might make a mistake in our movement. Because if I go out thinking that I'm supposed to pull my foot really high, I'm gonna get really tired. So the height of the pole, this is so cool. The height of the pole is only dependent on your speed and how far you're falling. And you don't do it. In place you do. In place, whoops, sorry. When I stand here perfectly still and I pull or you pull, you are controlling the movement. And this is really important. So this is like a strength training. This is a strength exercise. I'm standing in place, I'm weight bearing, and I'm actively pulling my foot. So it's an active muscle contraction. So I would never say to you, do 1,500 pulls with your right leg, and then do 1,500 pulls with your left leg. Can you imagine how fatigued I'm fatigued after 10, right? So running is around 1,500 steps a mile, which is why I use that number. If you try to pull all the way to pose when you run, it's like doing 1,500 pulls. It's very heavy and it's a lot of effort. So you're just developing a relationship with your hamstring when you do the standing pull. When you actually run, you only have to break contact with the ground and the foot pulls in response. You see, the hamstring is what finishes my pull. So if I'm running faster, yes, my foot will pull higher, but I don't do anything different. I'm not adding more effort. I'm just allowing the hamstring to do its own job. And here's a really cool thing, because we're all stuck in strength, meaning I had someone tell me the other day, in her running, her lower back was hurting. So she said, I think I should do more core work. It must be because my core is weak. And I said, actually, it's not because, if your core was weak, guys, you couldn't stand upright. You have plenty of strength in your core. The challenge is when she was, so I filmed her, of course. Send me a video, let me see it. And when her video came back, here was how she was running. She had her shoulders behind her hips here. She was holding herself like this. And you can just see, where's all the pressure? Right there in the lower back. So I said, let's try, first of all, let's take the shoulders over the hips. Let's line you up. Relax your arms, do nothing. Let them just hang by your side, pull in place. Does it hurt now? She said, no. Okay, if it's not hurting now, it shouldn't hurt when you're running. You see, that's so cool. I can help you in place. And so then what was the answer? Why was her back hurting? Because she was holding tension in her shoulders and holding her shoulders behind her hips. So the first step is really pose. What's pose? Pose is a pose, right? Strike a pose, remember that old Madonna song? So the running pose is this. This is the optimal position for your body to be in on the ground during run, so you can fall and change support. Switch feet. When you're running, instead of thinking I'm putting one foot in front of the other, you're switching feet. One foot's on the ground, other 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 foot's on the ground. I'm switching feet. How quick I can change my foot is how fast I can run. When you watch those sprinters in the Olympics, boy, their feet are moving, right? And the quickness is on the ground because that's where they sense their foot. So they're literally like just quick pulls, right? Even the elite marathoners, anybody you watch that's efficient in running, they look smooth. They don't look like they're doing this because they're bouncing or pulling their foot up. They're like, the hold is here, they fall, and they respond by pulling. They may not say those words, but that's the action of what's happening. And when you break it down to the simplicity of that, and you get out of trying to control the movement, and allowing movement, that's how things relax. People are like, how do I relax my shoulders? Don't think about your shoulders. Your shoulders aren't part of the run, right? What do my shoulders do during a run? They're holding. They're staying right here. So when do I practice that? Staying still when I practice holding my shoulders over hips, you see? So then if I'm running and this happens, where I'm running and I'm like, oh my gosh, my shoulders and my neck hurts. How do I relax them? Well, go back to your pose. Oh, you see? Like I can't think of, I can't tell my body actions while it's moving other than the movement it has to be doing. And that's important. So for example, if I'm running and I'm telling you, I want you to just fall. So find a fall point and pull your foot. Think about how much energy that's already taken. So I'm looking at my fall point and I'm focused on pulling. Up, 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 up. So if I'm focused on the running itself like that, then everything else will relax. Isn't that cool? So if you really are running and your upper body's tight, or even your hip flexors or whatever's hurting, you have to start thinking. I'm not going to think, relax my shoulders, relax my shoulders. Because then I'm not telling my body what to do. If I start thinking what to do, right? What do I do in my run? Find my fall point and I pull my foot. All of a sudden you'll realize, oh, my arms are more relaxed. And you can do things like shake your arms out. Absolutely. If you start to feel the shoulders creeping up, bring them down. Because awareness is there, right? Now you're thinking, okay, I'm running, or over pulling, any of that, or my foot's coming out. If I start to go, man, I'm feeling really bouncy and I'm getting really tired, then pull in place. Where's my fall point? I don't want to bounce in my run. So these are all the things that you can start to have fun with, and it's like a self-correction, right? I always use the examples of a squat or a deadlift. If you came into my gym and we were going to do a workout session and you're like, all right, I'm going to do a squat. And I was like, all right, show me your squat. And you're like, oh my gosh. And I see these. It's not a squat. I have to go back through and show you how to squat, right? I'd be like, what's the number one thing in any movement? Alignment. Ears, shoulders, hips. Stay in line when you squat. Stay in line when you run. Stay in line when you sit. Stay in line when you walk. So when you're working on this, just remember, this line is for everything you do, right? It's really helpful that way. Okay, so that's a great question. So she just said, hey, it looks like you're lifting your knee really high. And this is a great question, and we'll finish with this. All right, here's what I want you guys to do. If you could do this with me, that'd be great. I can't read without my glasses. That's why I keep putting them on. Okay, remember that the hamstring is the running muscle, right? The hamstring itself is right here behind you. It's this muscle. So when the hamstring closes the leg, this is what creates the pose. So right now, my knee is pointing down. You see, the line from my hip bone to my knee stays the same. I'm not lifting my knee at all. My knee is still as high as it ever was. Why does it move at all? Because it's a joint, right? Your knee's a hinged joint. It has no emotion. And I mean that in a nice way. It's like your elbow. No one thinks about their elbow. But when they pick something up, they fully expect that elbow to bend, right? So this is what's happening with the knee. Nothing. My hamstring is bringing my ankle up to my hip. You see, the knee itself is doing nothing. It's not traveling. It's not going up or down, really. It's just allowing that bend to happen. So there's just no knees. Like, let go of thinking of the knees, right? Watch the foot. It's the foot that's pulling. Here's my ankle bone, here's my hip bone. I'm trying to get my ankle to meet my hip using my hamstring. So when I'm running, it's the same. My knees are always pointing down. My knee is saying hi to the ground. Hi, ground, because my foot's pulling up. You see? It's a visual perception, but it's important because what's the number one running drill? High knees, Why? No reason. Ask any coach. Why do we do high knees? Ask them. I love these answers. What is that doing for me? High knee. Because if a high knee, how am I going to fall? Like this. Right? Now this is crazy. Now my knee's high up here, my foot's way out ahead. Where are my shoulders? Behind my hips. So this is great if you're in the marching band. I think that they do this. But in running, this is so awkward. Put yourself in alignment and feel the hamstring. And you will just focus on your feet. My feet are connected to the ground. My knees point down. See? There's no, just like when you're running, you don't think about your elbows, right? Most of us. But how do we hold our arm? Bent. Bent where? At the elbow. Why? Because it's a hinge. You see what I mean? So why does the knee move at all? It doesn't. It's just hanging out. The movement that you're seeing is from below the knee to the ankle. There's my movement. That's it. And it's really like that. See? So start the to-doing, right? But I love it. It's a great question because I've heard all my life, high knees, drive with your knees. And I'm like, those poor knees, they're like, hey, I don't have that job. My job is to just keep your femur from collapsing on top of your tibia, right? I need the knee so that I can hinge, so my hamstring can do this. And it's just important. That's why you do those hamstring exercises, right? Even if you kick, even if I'm a kicker, kicking, the knee still stays in the same, I can't kick, but it stays in the same spot. So if the knee is lifting, what muscle are you using? You're using your hip flexor and using your quadricep. So you're not using your knee at that point either, but if I'm lifting my knee up, what can I not now do? I can't fall. I mean, I can try, but kink, you see? So if the knee is coming up, you have to know that you're probably reaching forward. But I love the question. And I try to answer it in a way that helps all of you see. It's a visual perception. Because we think we see that knee moving, but the knee doesn't even move. It hurts me when I see folks bending back. I know, right? Catherine, yes, exactly. I know. And when I very first started coaching, I used to offer people advice, and then I realized really quickly they really don't want it. But I say this, I had a lady this weekend, 12-minute PR in her marathon, 12 minutes, y'all. And she said the first half, I was really feeling that what you're talking about, that, the freedom, the light, the free, the pull. And she said, second half I had more struggle, like who doesn't, second half of the marathon, but 12-minute PR. That's 12 minutes less stress on her knees, less stress on impact. Doesn't that make her want to sign up for another marathon? Yeah. If I'm like, I can shave 12 minutes, imagine how much more I can shave. And the best part is every extra frame you spend on the ground adds 5 seconds to your mile of doing nothing. Does that make sense? You're not slower because you don't have the ability to run faster. You're simply slower because you didn't know that you were supposed to be pulling off the ground. So now she knows that, right? That's her first switch. Her first switch, her first race. I have someone else training for a half marathon. I made her take off her watch because she's can't stand it, right? She's riding with her watch. She did an 8-minute PR in her half marathon. She ran a 1:28, which is like 1 minute off my lifetime PR. You understand though? Because she ran without the stress of this telling her what to do. Instead, she did this. She looked for her fall point. She found her fall. She pulled. And she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I had the potential to do that. And I'm like, I did, because I'm your coach, and I can help you with that, right? And it's incredible because when you see these success stories and you see these great results, just know that I'm also right there with you during however long you stay with me for all the frustrations. Because for all the people that are having these PRs, they also went through the initial weirdness of, my calf hurts. I'm not where I want to be. So that's also the fun part of having me, is that I'm there for all of it. You can vent to me, you can be frustrated with me, and then I just keep helping you get out of that and get back into your movement. So anyway, I would love to see you guys. I would love to see your run, which is in the membership. But you can also, for free, go to our website. We have a really great quiz. Like I have a shin splint, or my calf is aggravating me, and I give you a skill, strength, and self-care tip. And then of course we have the RunRx reboot on the YouTube channel. It's a 30-day reboot, and a reboot because it's like a reset. Whether you've been running forever, you're just getting started, you're coming back in, or you're just like, what is she talking about? It's fun to go through. I go through like a skill, strength, and self-care progression. So then you are always kind of advancing on all three elements. But most of all, watch that intro to practice. Just get a concept of what is pose, what is fall, what is pull. It's the only three elements in the running. And if you just practice that, you're just gonna be a better runner, right? So make that time for yourself. Keep the questions coming. Like I see Jamie's on, and last week she was like, should I film myself? And I said, yes. I said, film yourself, watch it, and then keep those videos. So as you keep checking in, you can also see where you're progressing. And she has done that already, and she's already seeing progress in her run. So you guys have fun with it, and don't evaluate yourself to look for errors. Look for like, wow, I am in pose. Like look to see what you're doing. Most of us have no idea what we're doing. So how do you use your legs when climbing and descending hills? So hills, like two types of hills. And I say that because I'm a trail runner also, or try to be when I can. If I'm running up and down a road, then hills become no different. Meaning downhill, there's no falling. Guys, this is important. So gravity is amazing, right? So on a downhill, the ground is sloping down, so you're literally already falling. Falling is a constant. So on a downhill, we tend to do this. So what you have to do is take your shoulders and place them over your hips. And then hold that knee bent. So when you're downhill, if you stay like this, it's kind of a spring. This is my S-like shape of springiness. And you simply pull. It's like you will feel, if you're doing it correctly, you'll feel your feet pop. And I'm not kidding when I say that. If I'm running down a hill correctly, on concrete, on road, then my feet feel like this. Up, 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 up. Okay, and what happens if I'm trying to go faster down the hill, then they're just going to pop up higher, but not because I'm doing any more work, just simply because of how I'm holding my shoulders over my hips. On an uphill, you've got gravity to help you, kind of, because there is falling uphill. So falling uphill, what I would do, try starting with your hands here, and as you go up the hill, pull your hips away, pull your hands away, and you see how I kind of slingshot it a little? Because up a hill, we tend to do this. We can't help it, we're tired. The hill is there. So people, they call it leaning into the hill. Don't do that, because then what? If I lean into a hill and I bend over, that's a lot of body weight to take up that hill. You want to bring your butt with you. So a hill, I'm holding my shoulders over my hips, but there is falling. Lead with the hips and hold the shoulders over. So that's on the road. And on the uphill, what's kind of fun is have the mindset of, I want to see what's up and over that hill. So that way I'm always thinking my shoulders and my whole body is going up and over. You automatically, or it's called unweighting. It's an unweighting. Your feet feel lighter, your body feels lighter. It's really cool. It's a concept. So I have to think it, practice it, and then it happens. On a trail, just so you know, if it's a very technical trail and you can't just run, there'll be a little climbing to go with it, then just keep in mind, please avoid big jumps. That's what I tell people. Don't make huge step-ups, make huge jumps. Instead, do a little side to side, keep your feet right under you, whether it's uphill or downhill, especially downhill. On a really steep technical decline, you're gonna be better off here. Just a shift of body weight, side to side, barely leaving the ground, okay? If it's free and you can open up, then open up, right? And trail running, obviously you see people using things like sticks and poles. Why? To offset their body weight. Because think about the stress it takes if I'm climbing a hill and I gotta put my leg up, like if it's technical, and then, right? Instead, you got the stick, use the stick to unweigh your feet. That's the fun of running, is that you can transfer it to any direction, any terrain. Yes, you can run on grass. Yes, you can run on concrete. Yes, you can run on anything. Absolutely. What changes? Your angle of fall changes, right? Or there might be no fall. Downhill, there's no fall. Treadmill, no falling. You're on a belt, please don't fall. You're not using gravity to fall forward. You're keeping up with a moving belt. So running on a treadmill is essentially just pulling in place. But it's great practice for holding my shoulders over my hips and keeping my feet underneath me, right? Same thing if you're running in sand, you're running in mud. Not much falling, active pulling for sure. And that's when you keep those pulls quick and low, right? So keep in mind when you have change in terrain or elevation, it's not the running that changes, because this has to hold. Ears, shoulders, hips stays the same. You're still pulling. So it's going to be the fall angle that changes. But it stays the same 3 elements. So that was a great question. All right. See, I'm nearsighted. So it's like if I put this, I can see. That's why I lean in all the time. All right, that was a great question day, guys. And always feel free to ask questions while I'm talking. I'm happy to answer. But if you want to just ask me a specific question and you don't want to post, that's fine. You can always send us an email through the website. You can send it to support@runnerx.fit. Just go to runnerx.fit and there's a way to contact me to ask me questions. You can post here on comments. You can post on the Instagram on the comments. We really do our best to try to give you back some feedback. So thank you guys. Have a great week. I hope you have a great run and keep asking the questions. Thank you.